And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to IT Career in Australia live stream. And tonight's topic is essential elements of the great candidate experience in IT industry. Thank you so much for finding some time this evening to join our live discussion. As usual, please introduce yourself in the comments. Let us know what you do and join our conversations with your comments and questions. Again, always encourage you to say hi in the comments, because if you're not saying hi in the comments, I don't know that you're here. So, and it feels like we're just going to talk with the crickets. So please make sure, send us a little hi. So if you're new to my live show, I'm Jana Martins, and I've recently entered IT industry myself. So I'm passionate about learning more and also share my new findings with you on this YouTube channel. So again, tonight we're going to talk about essential elements of the great candidate experience in IT industry. And Pavi is going to share, her story, her experience, and some statistics and importance of the candidate's experience and, what it means for your organizations and your talent acquisition. So incredibly relevant topic in today's market. So obviously it's the candidate markets today. And if you're the one who's looking for a job, please join us and share your experience so we can see, how good your recent experience been with different companies. So again, before I pass it over to Pavi to introduce herself, I just want to quickly remind you that we're going live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. So to watch the replays, as usual, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, IT Career in Australia. I'm going live every Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. Melbourne time, with various experts from my network. And we're talking about all things around IT career, job search, and specifics of IT industry in Australia. So also encourage you to join my meetup group to make sure you get notifications about upcoming discussions. And we will try to answer all your questions from all the platforms. So make sure to ask as many questions as you want, stay on the topic, and most active participants also receive a nice surprise at the end of the stream. And I always encourage you use this live stream, not only your opportunity to learn new information, but also to network with people in the industry. So we have few people joining us. Yeshwan saying good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight. And that's, enough of myself. I'm passing on to Pavi to introduce yourself. Please.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me on, Jana. Hi, everyone. For those that don't know me, my name is Pavi. I'm a global talent leader focused on scaling companies using tech, frameworks, and a lot of people-focused initiatives. So I'm currently heading up the talent function here at a company called Lightburn.
Perfect. Thank you, Pavi. I guess, before we dive in, into this, great candidate experience, maybe just tell us a little bit about, yourself, your journey, and, why you interested in talking about this topic tonight.
Yeah, look, in terms of candidate experience, it has been a very talked about topic everywhere. But I'm passionate about candidate experience as it's a really simple thing, but very underrated aspect of recruiting that many organizations, they tend to overlook its impact on an organization's brand. And, obviously we've all had our own stories about good and bad candidate experiences throughout our careers. And if you think back on them, they'd actually define the way you feel about a certain organization or even the products itself as well. So being in a position where I can make a positive difference in this space is super important to me. And it's something that is all about making people feel good at the end of the day as well. It's not just a company's responsibility, it's everyone within that company. So it is something that I'm very passionate about as part of my role.
I like that you mentioned, how overlooked the candidate experience often, especially, I guess, in the growing companies who don't have the dedicated HR function. And then it's recruitment end up just being like kicked to the manager, and they're like, oh, I don't have time for this, I don't have time for this. Like, that's, they just not the main thing of my, part of my job.
Yeah, it's not my job responsibilities to focus on this. Yeah, definitely. We've heard all of that.
100%. Jo is joining us as well. Hey there, everyone. Thank you, Jo, for saying hi. Cool. So, okay. So let's, I guess, talk about why it's so, overlooked. I know, you, have a few major elements here that you would like to share with us. So what are, I guess, let's start from the basic. What are those major elements to creating this great experience?
Yeah. So in terms of those 6 major elements, so if we go to what they are, it would be brand impact or brand marketing. So at the end of the day, your employer brand is your reputation. So if you don't define it, if you don't create this experience around it, your reputation, culture, missions, and value that people see as your brand plays a big part in inspiring and motivating candidates to apply for your company. So if you don't get that part right, the next, attracting and engaging them, that falls down as well. So I always say to my hiring managers, think of all the candidates that come through as your customers. You nurture them with your brand, your employer stories. You need to position them the way that you do your customers. It's very similar to what sales teams do as well, because if you don't have those first 2 elements, your applications, the people that are applying to your roles, that drops down. The people don't really know about your brand, and they don't know that you're offering all of these great things or that you're creating an environment that's suitable for them. The application process is another big one. So if your process isn't very easy to apply, a lot of candidates drop off at that stage as well. So that's why I've put that as one of the elements. The other elements are obviously interview and feedback process. So candidate experience is huge. It doesn't just stop with the first interview. It's how an organization handles the next steps, how they create a good impression on the candidate as well. And then once we step through to offer, you've spent all this time and money on your candidates. You've spoken to them, you've brought them in for interviews, you've utilized their time. But if you don't close off the offer, if you don't carry that experience through, then your offer and your onboarding falls down significantly. So I think there was a recent survey that said 74% of employees are still open to new opportunities in their first 6 to 12 months within a role. So you have to definitely carry that candidate experience through to onboarding, because it just doesn't stop at recruitment. It needs to extend to the whole employee life cycle. So those are what I've put down as the 6 steps for creating a positive candidate experience. Those are probably the most crucial steps in that journey.
Yeah, probably definitely, all the major elements here. I like that you put offer in there as well, because I think so often we think okay, so we already sent the offer. Yeah. It's done. We send it. So what else do we need to do? We already send it. Why are we not getting the signed copy back?
Yeah. And that's the thing. A lot of, I think even from a hiring manager perspective, they're like, great, we've sent this offer out. The candidates either accepted or they're still thinking about it, but that's it. That's the end of the experience. And I'm like, no, you still need to close the candidate. You still need to bring them on that journey. There's a lot of back and forth because they might not be unsure. They might be unsure about leaving their current company. They might be unsure about lots of different steps, and you're adding to that feeling that they have. And a lot of people don't realize that, if they have a bad experience there, their first thought is going to be, okay, so if I have a bad experience already at offer stage, how is it going to be when I step into this company? If they can't even do these steps properly, what's the guarantee that stepping into this company, my journey will be good?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, that's kind of that experience. If those steps unstructured, I guess that exactly what you said, that gives people the feeling that, oh my God, probably everything else will be unstructured as well.
It would just go downhill from there, because there's still a lot of back and forth. Just because you've given them an offer doesn't mean that they're going to take it or that they're going to start with you after that as well. And we've seen that a lot in recent times, where people have accepted offers, they've come back and they're like, oh, actually, well, I don't think this is the right company. I'm actually going to go take another offer. So it's happening as we speak. So that's definitely something that I think as organizations we need to think about the whole journey and not just stop at certain stages and go, yep, we're done. This is all we need to think about.
No, definitely. And I think, guys, like whoever is joining us tonight, I would love if you share with us, if you had some, bad candidate experience when you may be changing job or, getting poached from somewhere. So, and maybe let us know at what stage of this candidate experience you pull out. Like at what stage you feel like, oh no, like that's not for me. Maybe, when you get sent, the technical task that only requires 24 hours to complete, or or some
or majority of the time it's during interview and feedback, so you're not getting the feedback. Even if you're going into next stages, you still want to get that feedback to go on to the next stage to see where you went wrong or where you need to improve on. So I think that's the biggest fallout rate is at that interview feedback stage. So yeah, if you've got experiences, which I'm sure a lot of us have.
Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments at this stage you feel like, okay, so then maybe it's not for me. So yeah, please share with us. Smail is joining us as well. Hi Smail, thank you for joining tonight. And I'll just do a quick comment here. And Dari is asking, I started Master of IT networking in 2015 in Australia. Since then, I have not much experience. I have been working in hospitality and would like to get a job in IT. Is that possible? Please help. So, Andari, tonight we're talking about, different topic about, I guess, application process. But what I'll really encourage you to do, I just encourage you to go back to and look through some previous topics that we covered in the channel. So, and there's a few topics where exactly what we talk about, like entering IT industry in Australia as international students and so on. So just please go back to some videos and, you definitely find some answers there. So Pavi, just, little side note there. Coming back to, our candidate experience. So obviously there's so many stages, there's so many points where we can lose people attention or get a bad impression or things like this. So I guess what we would love to mainly discuss with you, what are those success ingredients? Yes. So what we need to think about to make sure that people we want to hire actually have a great experience and gonna stick with us from this original application to the offer and onboarding stage. Yeah. So what are those, success experience?
So these and they might not cover everything, but these are what I think the key ingredients are, because some of this I've picked up from obviously speaking to my peers in the industry and also having worked with a lot of hiring managers and stakeholders. These are probably the biggest areas that we should be focusing or improving our efforts on. So number one would be communication. 100%. So always letting the candidates know what to expect next. Anything from just simple things like, we received your email, thank you for your application emails, keeping them informed every step of the way, sending them reminder emails, thank you emails, or just, if we need to lock in interviews, sometimes, and it happens to everybody, sometimes things get missed in inboxes. Making sure that things are promptly responded to, or just sending them reminders as well, just so that they're communicated to, they know what's happening. So I feel like communication's a very key ingredient within that space. Second one would be, don't delay on sending rejection emails. This is a very big one. And I know I've been in companies where hiring managers take time, and obviously they want to go through all the interviews to be able to compare candidates. But then there's also times that they know this person's not the right fit, or this person's not going to work out for this role. They're not right for us right now. So do that as soon as possible. As soon as you decide not to move forward with a candidate, don't chicken out on sending them an honest rejection message. I feel like that's always better than sending nothing. You don't want to not hear back from a company that you interviewed for or just applied for, like for 2 months, 3 months. And I've had some of those experiences where I was job searching and I didn't hear back from companies for 2 months onwards. Even after an interview stage, I would just never hear back. So that's a really awful feeling. So, I've started doing this a lot more frequently now. As soon as I find out, I push my hiring managers to go, if this person's not the right fit, great, tell me now. I don't wait for them to keep on saying, oh, let's interview the next person, let's interview the next one. I said, no, if you know that they're not right, you should be judging them on their performance now, not comparing them to other people. That's definitely something that's a very big point. And I think a lot of people will agree on that as well, who have been through those experiences of not hearing back or not hearing anything, or hearing back three months down the track that they're unsuccessful and they probably don't even remember what job they applied for.
Yeah, and look, what I find a little bit tricky here, with the rejection emails, sometimes I feel like the requirements change so quickly. Then you talk with this candidate and you feel like, they might be not like exact right fit for it looking right now, but like week later we redefine the requirements, for example, and think like, oh no, that person is actually a really good fit. And if we send the rejection email straight away, we might call them and they already got another job.
Yes, yeah, that is a tough one, especially in how quickly people are moving in the market right now. I always tend to err on the side of, look, other people have lives. This is not the only company that they've applied to. So you're better off sending that rejection email. If you lose the person, that's unfortunately, it's the way it is. We then might have to go back to them. There has been instances where I've gone back to rejected candidates and just been completely honest and said, really sorry that this didn't work out. We've actually got an opening now, or we've had to come back to them because for some reason or other, something didn't work out with the other candidate, but they're still a really great candidate. They're a really good person that we would have considered. It was maybe like a really close tie. So I've gone back to them and said, this is what the situation was. If you're still interested, would you still like to consider this role? You won't know until you ask that question, and you won't know until you are transparent. So it's either going to be a yes, I'm still available, or no, I'm not available anymore. So I kind of tend to err on the side of just ask and see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's coming back to this, communication bit as well. Sometimes it is about, keep asking questions and, keep refining the requirements and, keep communicating and checking in. But I guess, with the communication, when we're going through, just want to check you, when we're going through really like high volume candidates at some point, do you try to automate this communication? So that's kind of part of you're trying to do as a HR leader. Yeah.
So in some instances, yes, there will be times when it's high volume roles and you can't get back to every single person. In those instances, I do send out emails saying, this is why you were unsuccessful for the next stage. We're not moving forward with you, but if you would like more detailed feedback, we're happy to lock in some time. Just come back to me. We're happy to lock in some time to go over your feedback specifically, and give them that opportunity to get that feedback. So there's always a way to do it. Even if you've got high volumes, there's always going to be a way that you can, be communicative and be able to automate that process and be able to at least send them that communication, or give them an option to say, you have this option of getting more detailed feedback. If you wish, contact us for more or set up a time with us.
Pavi, how you make the hiring managers to provide extended feedback without them saying like, "Nah, I'm too busy." No.
I'm pretty sure there's some of them at the moment. I'm like, do you have feedback for me? Give me feedback right now. You've interviewed this person yesterday. Give me feedback, or at least trying to catch up with them straight after an interview. I try to do that, but obviously if there's some days where there's multiple interviews and times when that's not possible, it will be setting up a time with them and saying, give me all the feedback for these people, or I've actually some of them are really good right now. They will actually call up the candidate directly and give them the feedback without me having to say so. So congratulations, those hiring managers. But it is a very much a two-way street, working with the hiring managers to make sure that everyone's on the same page and everyone knows what's happening from inside the company as well.
Definitely. And guys, yeah, so didn't see any horror stories from you yet, but let us know as well if you're getting timely feedback usually, or is it you still feel like most of the times you don't get the timely feedback, or the feedback is maybe just a little bit too shallow, and you kind of feel that the feedback is just someone was better than you and that's it. Which is probably same as no feedback at some instances. Okay, so what else we got there in our ingredients?
Yes, so surprise and delight your candidates. This is more around creating that two-way conversation. So keeping that, it's trying to avoid creating that interrogation in the interview. It's not just you interviewing that candidate and going, tell me about yourself, tell me when you did this, tell me when you did that. That's, it is a very much a two-way conversation. So delight your candidates, create an open atmosphere, allow them to learn about your company as well as finding out about them at the same time. So I always say to my hiring managers, it's a two-way street. They're trying to find out as much about you and see if they actually want to work in your teams as much as you want to interview them. So, people want to work for a purpose or a team, and it's not always a company. They want to know who you are as a manager or a teammate. So creating that atmosphere is always really important within that candidate experience step.
And I guess the question that I have here, if the hiring manager quite technical, they always say not always, not gonna generalize, but they often say something about like, but I'm not a salesperson. I can't I can't sell it. Like I can just talk about the technical stuff, but I'm not sure what to say when I'm trying to sell this position.
I think it's less of a selling when it comes down to the hiring managers and their teams, and it's more of a just be authentic, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be doing that same selling point when this person joins your team. You're going to be treating them as per normal. You're going business as usual. So just be authentic, be yourself, and be that business as usual person. You're not in there to sell it. I feel like TA is already doing that for you up front to get that person to the interview stages and to be able to sell that company. From there on, interview stages is to just be yourself, be authentic, show them what it's like to work in your teams. So that's that part of the experience that hiring managers should be building up. And it's not much of a selling, so much more as a, let's have a conversation. Who are you? Who am I as a person? Do you think, this is the work we do in our teams? Does your skill set match with what we need to be able to deliver a project, or to be able to get this app up and running, or do a deliverable? Like, that's the things that they should be looking for rather than selling.
Definitely. And I guess it also helps, as you mentioned, when it's two-way conversation, and when you're asking maybe some technical questions to the candidate, but you also give expanded answer as well. It's not like they maybe they didn't work with this technology, they don't know the answer. They usually say like, okay, so I didn't have that experience. Yep. But I think it's also good to give the answer with some examples, so for to maybe like sometimes it just kind of catch the candidate attention, or like kind of show them like that's kind of the technology working with, and that's the cool stuff we do here. Instead of just saying like, oh, you didn't work with this, oh, fine, okay, move to the next question.
Yeah, it's not a right or wrong type of thing. It's not a yes or no type of question. It's more, okay, you didn't know the answer. This is what I would have liked to have seen. And that way the candidate then picks it up and they go, oh, okay, cool. So if they do go into an interview, if they didn't work out for this one, that's fine. But if they step into another interview, they know the types of things to expect, and they know what they should have been saying as well.
Yep, definitely. And we have one more ingredient there as well.
Yes. So sending candidates a survey. So we do this at the moment at Liven for everyone that comes through our process. And that's successful and unsuccessful. So we send a candidate to gain insights, basically to gain really valuable insight into our hiring process, because obviously we at Liven's scaling up. We're also building things. We need to do things better, and we know we need to do things better. We're not perfect at what we do, but we're trying to get there. So this allows us to get that insight, to get the data, to be able to say, okay, so this is where we're not doing so well, this part of the candidate experience, whether it's application, whether it's interviews, whether it's feedbacks. We have every step of the way. We do that through the Circle Back initiative. So we use Circle Back to be able to gain all of that data and that knowledge to say, great, here you go, hiring managers, your interviews are actually not very good, because there's people walking out of your interview saying they had a really bad experience or they had a really good experience. So we feed them both sides of the feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And then other bits that are more systematic, if it's application, if it's onboarding, those are things that we can, in my team, that we can affect straight away. And then the other things that we need to do, if it's hiring manager, if it's feedback, then what type of training do we need to give to our teams to do that better? So that's another one of the essential elements that I had down was train your team, the way your interviews conduct themselves within the interviews. Training sessions always help. Some of them might be new interviewers and new hiring managers, helping them improve their interview skills as well helps them feel more at ease, because we always think about one side of it, which is the candidates coming in feeling nervous and being in front of somebody that's interviewing them. We forget that sometimes the other side, the interviewer, might be just as nervous as well. So they might not be used to that situation. So it's training up those teams, and making sure that they have all of the tools, they have the resources to be able to interview as properly as they can.
Definitely. And I like the idea of the candidate survey, because I don't feel like that many companies actually do that. It's quite rare, actually. Yeah.
There's a few now that are all getting on
Mm-hmm.
board, because I think they see the value of it now. And now, because candidate experience is something that everyone does want to improve on and wants to make a difference on. There's a lot of companies getting on board. Like I said, there's a really great initiative called Circle Back, which lists all the companies that get back to candidates, and they're all striving to create this great candidate experience by making sure that there's frameworks in place to say we will respond to every single candidate. We will get back to every candidate in a timely manner. If we can't give them feedback straight away, we will make efforts to give them feedback down the track. So there are a lot more companies than there were a few years ago going down that pathway. And it's good to see, because it is showing that as an industry, at least, we're evolving, we're improving ourselves. We know where we're going wrong. We know what we need to improve on. It's just taking those tiny steps to get there.
Yep, definitely. I'm curious, Pavi, is majority of what's the percentage? I don't know if you know exact the figure, but how many candidates actually filling up those surveys? Like, most of the candidates fill them up?
Most of them, yeah, because at the moment, what do we have? We have surveys going out at application stage to see how easy it was to apply. So we have quite a few candidates responding back then. I think the lowest number is candidates responding after rejection, and that's kind of understandable. They've just been rejected from a job. A lot of them might not feel like they want to, fill out a survey.
Engage right away. Yeah.
Exactly. So we do have some people that do fill those out, and it's really good insights. Whether it's good or bad, we'll take the bad. I'm happy to hear the bad as well, because that's what will help us improve. But out of all of those, like, we have surveys that go out after someone's been hired. throughout that interview process, like how was the interview? Was the interviewer open, engaging? So we have it at every step of the way. So we're getting all those data points as well. Yeah, those are the major sort of milestones that we're measuring. But I think the lowest one will probably be at that rejection stage.
Rejection. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
understandable. Yeah, people might not want to fill that out straight away.
Yeah, but actually, sometimes most of the time, actually, bad feedback is a good feedback because that's where you learn from.
Yeah.
And it's probably, great to hear feedback from someone who maybe didn't have that great experience, but that's, that shows these areas of improvement because you would think maybe some candidates will be a bit reluctant to leave the bad feedback.
Yeah, which is why we
Yeah.
go through an external company and they're anonymous, so we don't get to see
Yeah.
name or anything. So we make it all anonymous, so it's not people don't feel bad about like, oh, my name is going to be on this, or they're going to know who left this feedback, and it might burn bridges for the future. So we've completely outsourced that to a external person, and it's all completely anonymous. So all we get are the numbers to say positive or negative, or this is where you need to improve. And if anyone's written feedback, then they just give us just the notes on it to say, your application process was too difficult for us, or it's too time consuming, and things like that. Those make a difference because that will then help us go back and say, okay, great, this is too difficult, this is too hard, let's make it easier, let's take away some things and make the application process easier. Or the interviews were really awful, let's improve interview processes inside our company. So there's a lot of things that we want to take out of that and make improvements on.
Definitely. And I think there's one ingredient that I skip with my fat fingers. The one that was before the survey.
No, this kind of leads into the whole training the team. So structuring that interview process is definitely a big one because I'm trying to get all of our hiring managers right now onto structured interview processes where you're not just interviewing them for the sake of interviews. Like each interview has a specific purpose, and each interview or candidate goes through the same set of interviews. So we're not having one person go through 6 rounds of interviews or one person going through 2. Like we want to keep it consistent so that we can actually measure the person's skill set. And this helps you make the decisions quickly as well. So it avoids overlapping questions. So you don't want interview 1, 2, and 3 all having same questions. We want them to be very short, succinct, but make it effective as well. So the more effective it is, the quicker it is. It's a win-win for everybody, for the candidates as well, because obviously they've got other interviews that are happening, other companies that they're interviewing for. So the quicker and faster that we can create a nice structured interview set. I think at the moment we max out at 2 and possibly 3 for some roles, some niche roles where we need to do some skills testing. 3 is probably the maximum number of interviews that we do before we go to an offer.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's more and more often, that's one of the questions that candidates will ask as well. How many rounds of the interview you have, because if you're gonna have 5 rounds of interviews, it's like, actually, I'm getting 2 another offers and I don't want to go through 5 rounds of interviews just for the sake of it, to have a 3rd offer, and then I won't take it anyway.
Exactly. And that ties then back to communication. So if they don't know how many rounds they're going through, so we have all of our interview rounds on our live and career site. So every time we put up a job ad at the bottom, it actually tells you how many rounds of interviews for that role specifically. So at a snapshot, before you even apply, that this role has 2 rounds or 3 rounds of interviews before an offer. And that way people are more informed. So it again ties back to communication, keeping them informed every step of the way. And this is a way that we found to do it before they even apply. So they know very clearly, if I apply, I'll get this, I'll get this, I'll get this before potential offer. And that way they can manage around all the other roles and other interviews that they're doing as well.
Yeah, really good point. I'm actually curious, for those who listening to us, guys, have you noticed when you look through the job ad and see how many rounds of interviews it's going to be? Is it something that will affect your decision to click the apply button? So I would be actually curious to know. So whoever is listening to us or watching the replay, maybe pop it in the comments. If you applying for the job and it says straight away it's only 2-step interview, would you more likely to apply and follow up because that it's a quicker process and you don't need to go through like 5 rounds of technical interviews?
Or some companies 7 rounds. Like I've heard of some companies that just go through 7 rounds and you commit all your time to it. And that's another part of candidate experience, that people are committing their times to it. They're taking time off work to do these interviews. So it's definitely a very big factor from what we've seen. But yeah, I'd love to hear if that makes a decision factor for other people as well.
Have you, when you start doing it, have you noticed any difference? Have you noticed any difference during your career when you cut off 1 round of the interviews and had a better experience and like more candidates, or did you have any specific examples of that?
I've been in interviews myself where I've actually asked them, I've said, how many rounds of interviews is there for this? And if they say, 5, or, you have to do 5 plus a take-home assessment, I'll say, look, that's probably not going to be something that I can commit time to, because, at the end of the day, you want to be able to move things quickly on your end as well. If you're a job seeker, you're not just sitting around applying to one job and waiting for them and hoping for them. It's going to be multiple employers. So I've been through the other side of it myself as a job seeker, going, okay, so if you have this many rounds of interviews, I'm done. I'm out. Sorry. That's as much as I can do.
No, 100%. And I think, especially now, we're definitely living through interesting time where it feels like it's candidate market, but not even in IT industry. It feels like it's a short of people in general, everywhere. And it's interesting to see what will be happening in the next year because it feels like there's more positions. I think it's less immigration. So, and it's surprisingly, it's not only IT industry. It feels like every industry at the moment is going through like quite a bit of a shortage of talent. So definitely a candidate market at the moment. So, and I guess if we're not improving the candidate experience, how we can expect that more people gonna apply.
Exactly. Yeah, you're more likely to be losing out on that talent, and especially with the speed of applications coming through, or the speed of people, if you wait 5 days, by the time you've got back to them, they've already got another job offer. They're already gone. So yeah, definitely in this market, I'm noticing a lot of things. Like if you leave things for 2 or 3 days, even before you get back to a candidate, you've already lost a couple of people along that pipeline.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, you also wanted to mention something about Livent as well, how you guys ties up, the candidate experience and the customer experience together.
Yeah, so at obviously being a very customer-centric and product-focused company, we've tried to align a lot of this, and we haven't fully done it yet, but we are in the process of aligning it more closely. So I've tried to make sure that candidate experience aligns with what our clients and our client and sales teams do. So I've gone back to the company and said, look, we need to be a bit more focused on this, because delighting candidates and making sure that they're treated as customers is actually going to be more beneficial. Because at the end of the day, even if we don't have successful candidates, all the unsuccessful ones, we want to give them a really good experience. We want to keep them happy, because they'll be app users. They'll use our app or not decide to use our app based on their experience through a recruitment process. We've heard all these stories over the years of people having a really bad experience with a certain company, and then they'll go back to their family and friends and say, oh, I had really bad experience here. I don't want to ever use this product again. I don't my values don't align with them. They never responded back to me, so I hate them now. I won't use their products. I won't buy their products. So that's a very big thing for us at Liven, especially. So one of the things that I've done recently is we've been able to offer, because we're a food dining out based app, every time somebody applies to our role, we're actually able to give them Liven dollars. So those Liven dollars, every time a candidate gets Liven dollars, they're able to go grab some food or a coffee, and we say, while you wait for us to come back to you, while we review your CVs and come back to you, go grab some food or coffee on us. And this gives them a chance to use the app, but it also gives them an insight into what Liven is, what it does, what the company is. And so when they come into the interviews, they have hands-on experience using the app itself, because that's essentially what they're coming in to help build. And that's a company that they're coming to help build. So it's kind of like a two-way street. We are, giving them that experience as a customer. So even if they're unsuccessful for the job, they've now had a good experience. They've used the app. They've enjoyed using the app, hopefully. And then they stay on as a customer. And that way, if there's other roles down the track, they've been along that journey. They've used the product. They know what it is. They know who we are. And it's somebody then that we can go back to later down the track and say, hey, we've now got new roles or new headcount. Would you be interested? And they're along for that journey. They've been through that. They've been through the process, and they've used it hands-on as well. So we find that works both ways.
Sandra is saying, rockstar, Pavi.
Thanks, Sandra.
Sandra is actually coming to my live stream in September as well.
Nice.
So here we go. It's a small word. I love this idea, Pavi. Like, I love, just what you described, about this treating the candidates as the customers. Great, like such a great example. And I think obviously it's really powerful that it comes to product companies,
yes,
specifically. And yeah, for any company, because I think even if you don't sell products directly to B2C, you never know. Like, every time you have communication with someone, you never know who they know or who they communicating with, and so on. So basically, yeah. So treating the candidates as a customers, I think it just given.
Yeah,
I think we passed those times where candidates is it's the people who are trying to get a job and you can just pick the choose. I think we've already passed that time. So it's exactly this kind of relationship, similar to customer one.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like you said, we've definitely passed that point where we just think of candidates as just someone trying to be an employee. It's way more than that. It's, the whole journey. Like we said, it doesn't stop at people coming into the company and being an employee. It extends out, that experience has to extend out. And that's the same for this side as well. You want this experience to extend out as a consumer of your brand or your product, even if it's not a B2C, they could be a B2B supplier or a customer. They could go on to another company that you are dealing in a B2B space, and they would remember you. They would remember going, oh, hey, I remember I applied to that company and I had awful experience. I don't want to consider them as a vendor or a supplier. So it works on so many levels. It's not just this one level where you're just looking at one lens going, they're either a candidate, they're an employee, and that's it. We're now expanding that view to go looking at, who they are. We're headhunting some of these people to come into these companies. So they're a candidate, they're an employee, they're a user of your product, they're a consumer, they're a B2B person, they're a vendor, a supplier. There's so many different facets now that we have to be aware of and take into consideration when we're, putting anything into place.
And I think it's also a really good point when you're talking with, the leadership team, or if it's a smaller company and they don't have maybe that much human resources and so on. It's just a really good, point to make that, look, every candidate that apply to us, it's potential customer. So don't, I guess, compromise. There's no point of compromising that experience. Especially when you're growing, especially if you scale up, and maybe your brand is not that strong yet. You're not Google yet, that people just apply to Google because it's a Google.
Yeah, they're not applying just purely based on your brand reputation. They're applying for you, for the people, for other aspects of the company or what they see as interesting. So there's so many factors that you need to take into consideration, and you do need to start treating every candidate as your end consumer, because, you know, we do it in sales, we do it in marketing. Why wouldn't you do the same thing in, you know, recruitment or talent acquisition? It's the same thing. We're doing same facets of the role, just with different hats on.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Pavi, also cautious about the time. We're hitting the 45 minutes mark of our stream. Let's, I guess, try to summarize. And I know you have another point here talking about all the benefits. I think we already touched on
Yes.
it quite a few, but I guess let's just summarize and summarize why it's so important, why it's so important to provide this, candidate experience.
Yeah, look, this is something that I showed my leadership team as well, and I feel like this infographic completely summarizes about why we need to do the positive candidate experience. Like, you know, all the things that we talked about before, like 95% of candidates are more likely to apply again if they had a positive candidate experience the first time. So you do want people, like, if they're not successful for your role right now, there'll be other roles down the track. You want those people to be interested in your company down the track, you know. They would 97% would refer other people to apply. So, you know, how many times have you had really great feedback or really good experience, and you'll go to your friend and they'll ask you like, oh, hey, I saw this job come up for this company. Your answer would be, yeah, go ahead and apply. Like, they're really good. I didn't get the job, but they're still really good. Or it's going to be, no, they're a really bad company, don't bother applying, because they'll never respond back to you. So those ones are two really good metrics to have a look at as well. And the other ones I show my leadership team are, you know, purchasing within the company. So this is what we were talking about, tying your brand, tying your candidate experience into your growth of the company and treating them as end users of your products. So, you know, those are really big numbers. Like 88%, if they have a positive experience, they will increase their purchase with the company. And then, you know, being able to tell their social networks about that positive experience, more than half of those will go on to say, yeah, let's, you know, go apply, go, this company is great, or that company is not so good. Like, this is all word of mouth, and we know how strong word of mouth is in any industry. It's not just locked down to IT or retail, it's any industry. Word of mouth is so strong within that space.
100%. And that's exactly what you mentioned. And if someone applied and it's in top of their mind, they had a good experience, their friend will say, oh, I'm actually considering to change a job. And you're like, oh, like, have a look at this company. I applied, but I remember they were looking for more people, or they're looking for the different position. And yes, it works so well because the power of referral, no one cancel the power of referral. It just so often we just trust something just a bit more or a lot more just because someone recommended to us, even if someone had the limited interaction as well. But just because this person refer us or introduce us, straight away we have this extra trust immediately.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. That's a very, very high factor of trust, especially when you're referring someone.
And I think it was one more. So 55% of candidates also will share with social networks.
Yes. So that all ties in with the growth of a company. So if anybody ever, and this is for some of the other people within the same industry, if a business comes back to you and goes, oh, candidate experience, it's something that we'll look at later, or if I don't have time for this, these numbers, I always feed back to them and go, look at how much improvement. This is not just a recruitment or a talent acquisition thing. It's a whole company thing. You're growing your whole company. It's going to affect your brand, your reputation, everything as part of it. It's not just one little piece. It's a company as a whole and how we're seen externally.
Yep, definitely. 100% Pavi. And yes, I'm really glad, you have those statistics as well. Because I think sometimes we just, overlook the numbers. And once we see a bit of a statistic, we're always like, yeah, no.
Makes more sense.
Makes sense.
A bit
Makes
more
sense.
in your face. Yeah.
Makes sense. And it's not only something we think straight away in terms of the, the referral, because we so often we ask for referrals from our like the existing employees, but yeah, we forget that anyone out there is our referral partner at the end of the day.
Definitely.
And just also, cautious about the time, guys. So we, have last, 10 minutes of our live stream. Everyone been quiet. I see you watching. I see that you're watching. Just been a bit quiet. So guys, if you have any questions to Pavi, or again, if you had any experience yourself, please share in the comments. Would love to hear from you. And while I'm doing that, I just want to also quickly announce the topic for the next week. I'm actually going on holidays.
Yay.
On Friday. Exciting. So it's been 3 years since I've been overseas. So,
a lot of people are in that. It's been 2 years, 3 years. Like there's so many holidays coming up.
So yeah, it's been a while. So I'm going overseas for, finally after post-COVID. And next live stream actually will be at the end of August. So it will be, the 3 weeks will be off. And then the 31st of August, we're going to speak with Wendy, and we're going to talk about top tips for interview success in IT industry. Wendy is a career mastery coach, and she's leading her clients, through all the stages of the interviews, interview preps and resume reviews and so on. So she's going to share her knowledge and give us some tips on interview success on the 31st of August. So if you are on the market at the moment, so definitely make sure to join our discussion with Wendy. So you'll definitely get a lot of value. And also make sure to like this video if you're getting the value from our today's discussion. So we feel like, if we feel we bring some value to you guys today, that's encourage obviously us to keep going as well.
Awesome.
And Pavi, okay, so just what's the best ways to connect with you?
LinkedIn's great. Happy to have any conversations. If people want to reach out, just let me know what it is that you want to reach out for, because I do get some, I have all these people reaching out for jobs and different things, but just drop me a note. I'm more than happy to chat to people. If you want to touch base, if you want to talk about more candidate experience or any other topics as well, happy to. So reach out to me on LinkedIn and would love to have a chat.
Are you hiring at the moment?
Yes, we are. We are. So yeah, please definitely check out, either reach out to me or check out liven.love. So we do have a lot of our active and open roles at the moment on our careers website. So if you see anything that fits, please reach out to me. I'm happy to have a chat.
It's hard to probably find any company at the moment that doesn't hire.
I think it's two extremes. It's either people are hiring or they've stopped hiring because they're making redundancies. Yep. So it's like very two polarizing ends of the hiring spectrum right now.
Definitely. And Ramesh, have a quick comment. Like the idea of knowing total numbers of rounds well before, it's quite helpful.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to know.
And it's so easy to implement. I'm going to implement it like tomorrow after our conversation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it in the job ad now. I'm like, we only have 2 rounds of the interview.
Yeah. And it's so handy because there's so many people that are looking at it and going, oh, do I apply? Do I not apply? at least you're giving them an extra, reason to apply to your role.
Yeah, no, definitely, like a really, really simple, I guess, adjustment that makes a difference. So Pavi, and to finish our today's discussion, can you share with us? I'm going to put you a bit on the spot here. Do you have your favorite inspirational quote?
Oh God!
Or some principle you live by, something, something that.
God, I did. There's a lot of quotes. But I think in terms of personal purpose, I can talk to that. One of my personal purposes is to leave behind people happier than when you met them. So I think that's definitely something that I've heard and I've seen people emulate along the way, and that really speaks to me. So leave people happier than when you met them, definitely.
Definitely. And I think, this is such a great quote to apply for the candidate experience. I think,
I feel like with everything, like career and personal purpose, it kind of aligns, and it kind of makes sense when I go back to people and they're like, oh, why did you get into talent acquisition? I'm like, oh, well, because it kind of ticks all the boxes that I want to be as a person as well. So it fits.
Definitely. And that's such a great example. It doesn't matter if the person, successful or unsuccessful in the interview process, if you can, create this, experience and also, just live this, change people's life a little bit in a positive way, or just, maybe make them smile. It's, already a great day.
Yeah,
I think is the principle of Buddhism. If everyone just wish the best to everyone, the world would be a completely different place.
Be such a nicer place to deal with, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems so obvious and easy, but sometimes you stop and think, like, why don't we just do that?
Yeah.
Why we just don't wish the best for everyone we meet, and just make the world like better place instantly.
I guess we'll need to work on it. That's one of the things that we need to work on, definitely.
But I can see, Pavi, you already definitely working on it. Even with all the tips you shared today, you definitely working in that direction. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me, Yana. It's really good.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for your comments, and wish me luck with my overseas travels.
Yeah, have fun on your holiday.
And I'll see everyone on the 31st of September.
Wonderful.
Thank you.